Yeah. All right. Good morning. Are you seeing my partnering for innovation in schools? Okay.
Yeah.
Good morning. Audrey and Valerie already said hey. But to all who are watching, good morning. I'm Ayesha Hall, Director of Strategic Partnerships at the Maine Department of Education. Today's session is partnering for innovation in schools, and our focus is practical: how to structure partnerships that support meaningful innovation in schools in ways that are implementable, that are inclusive, and they're aligned with Maine DOE priorities. Oh, this is something this is Stephanie, our tech specialist and facilitator today.
Good
If
morning.
you're able to, Stephanie, are you able to I don't think you can interact with the screen, can you? No. Okay. I got this.
Do you want me to put the link to the Canva in the chat or not yet?
Oh, that would be great. That would be helpful. All right. Thank you. So I just want to go through why this matters. The session is designed to strengthen how we use partnerships to address real challenges in schools. So we'll focus on clarity. So clarity of purpose, clarity of roles, and clarity of conditions needed for equitable access. Partnerships are most effective when they are grounded in lived experiences and produce tangible improvements for learners and educators and communities. Um, I'm flipping two screens, y'all. Bear with me. All right, so we'll move through three connected sections of the session today. We'll begin with scenario practice to surface some real partnership tensions. We'll then identify practical tools and language that strengthen clarity, access, and trust. And we'll close by identifying one next best step you can take in your context. And so it'll be oh, Stephanie, you'll be a part of this conversation today too, because we'd love to include your context. And Valerie, whenever you're free, this is going to be a pretty interactive session. I'd hate to have you 2 hours just listening to me talk. And so as we go through, if you need breaks, let me know. But I'll be using the chat. Stephanie will be navigating the chat for us, but because it's such a small group here, I'm hoping that we'll be able to come off mic and just have a conversation. So this can be something that you can really work with and be impactful and useful to you next week when you go back to work. Good morning, Morgan. Right on time. So I'm going to lead us through the three-part structure. I'll go through it again: experience, apply, and design. So first, we'll work through realistic partnership scenarios, like I said. Second, we'll identify the partnership moves and guardrails that lead to stronger outcomes. And then third, you'll define the practical next steps that fit your capacity and context. So that's from Morgan. Welcome, welcome. And one thing I like to do to make sure that when you're having conversations in context, well, these are a few of my go-to must-have agreements for most meetings. If I don't share them out loud, I keep them to myself, but these are the things that guide me in most of the collaborations and partnerships that I work with. So I'm mindful that of the phrase also safe space. You see, I have courageous space agreements there because safe space can feel ambiguous these days. And so it's a lot going on in the world, and a lot of people with a lot of different values and different opinions. So instead, we'll commit to creating safe space where we can be courageous. Because when people from different demographics, cultures, and lived experiences come together, we got to acknowledge that we are unique and that differences will show up in the room. Naming what we need what each of us need to stay engaged, especially when something feels unfamiliar or uncomfortable. And usually when you're partnering or you're doing something big and you're innovating, that means we're doing something that we haven't done before, or we're doing it differently. It's best practice to have some agreements or come together. It may feel funny. It may feel like, oh, in your school, teachers, oh, let's go with rules and regulations, or what are we going to do in this classroom? But it helps to get to it in the beginning, so that when we get to rough spots, when we're connecting, collaborating, we have something to fall back on to bring us back to center. Okay, so these best practices will help us use our time. All right, so I have, oh, well, let me name them first. Can we name them? Let me name them out loud. Listen to understand, speak your truth. This one is, I got to start by, because it's take the lessons, leave our stories. That's one that I've picked up. You may, Audra, I see you nodding, but this one has stuck with me over the last couple of years, because grown-ups are struggling so much. And when you have an opportunity to come together, a lot of stuff happens that may be messy, or that may be private or personal. And so when you think about confidentiality, it sounds so formal, but we're coming together to collaborate. So we're being relational. And so taking the lesson, what we learned, the things that we're going to do because of what the stories we heard, we take that with us, and we leave the stories, leave people's personal stories with the group. And that way, if we have that agreement, you're mindful and you can be more open and vulnerable when we talk about things that are difficult. Giving space, take space. Some people speak a lot. Some people tend to not speak at all. This is a space to be courageous and do something. Be quiet when you want to say it, or speak up when usually you wouldn't. It's important too when you're in collaboration for innovation. And staying engaged. This is for today. This is 2 hours. I want to make it as meaningful as possible. But staying engaged means, we got Lila here. Staying engaged means she needs to walk away. If you need to take a break, I have them in there I have breaks in the presentation. But in order to stay engaged, make sure we're honoring everybody's level of engagement. I'm going to do the same. I'm going to be checking in on you. Embrace discomfort. That one is a good one too. When you are uncomfortable and doing things that are not familiar to you, you want to think that that's just go. That's what's supposed to be like. That's what it's supposed to feel like. Embrace it. This is supposed to happen. In one session, many seeds. Although we're gonna be here for quite a bit, and we'll cover a lot. You can never cover enough when we're talking about creating spaces that are equitable, coming together to talk about things that are difficult. You may come back to this to the slides and see something different, or see something in a different perspective. Many seeds will come from this. I'm going to be available. I'm hoping that you all will have some conversations with each other and collaborate. So we're talking about doing things, partnering for innovation. And so I'm hoping that you'll leave with some seeds from this one session. But hopefully, if we don't get to cover everything, you'll come back to me and come back to us and keep growing. All right. So I saw, Audra, you shook your head. So I want you to add one agreement that will help you stay courageous, or an agreement that you had before in the past that's been helpful to you that you didn't see on that list. I could give a poll, but
not necessarily one that I didn't see on the list, but one that I liked and feel that I've used often was the take lessons, leave your stories. Before I taught fourth grade, I was a special education teacher. So in a lot of meetings, there's a lot of vulnerability from families, and it's important not to necessarily take all the technical things they say about their life, but more so just making sure that you're making the IEP and the outcomes for the kid appropriate. Because sometimes you feel like they can get on tangents and talk about things, and you're like empathize with them, but it's like that's not necessarily what we're here for. So
yes. As a school psychologist, I think by trade, and you tend to be in spaces when you're collaborating and doing stuff where people just tell all their business, and that's how we relate. But sometimes it's hard to draw a line or set boundaries, especially when you're related and it feels so family. And Yeah. Anyway, how about you, Morgan?
I also came from special ed before, but
Look at this.
I was an ed
Sorry.
tech before. This is my first year actually teaching, and it's in a brand new school. So I agree with what
Thank you.
Audrey said as far as the families and sharing and leaving that to the side,
Mm,
be able to focus on what's best for the student, but also just the discomfort of a new school with brand new kids and my first year with my own classroom. It's just a
yeah.
lot.
Yeah, I feel you. Well, thank you. And thanks for doing something new.
Also,
Thank-
Morgan and I teach at the same school and she's next door.
Yep.
Shut the front door. Okay, where are y'all? Where are what
Washburn.
Washburn? Okay, just
Yes.
wanted to name that for the folks watching.
Yeah.
Washburn representing Washburn special education in the house. Hey, Stephanie, how about you?
Well, I also taught special ed for a long time, so this is a fun group.
I know.
And I put it in the chat, like poor Morgan. It's so hard that first year. Even I taught for 20 years, and then I moved to Maine, and just teaching in a brand new state and a brand new school. And I just remember thinking, I'm never going to remember everybody's names, and it's just that those first few years are hard. Well, any year is hard in education, right?
Yeah,
But it does get easier, I promise, Morgan. Um, I think Ayesha and I were talking about this. She and I just met each other, even though we were both working for the Department of Education, but we're on different teams. And you guys know sometimes you can be in classrooms right next to each other, but you don't see each other all day, right? That's kind of how we are. We're kind of
yeah,
isolated from each other a lot of times. But we were just saying how, as the longer we've been in education and the older we get, the less we feel like we know. Especially in these day and times. So I think just that humility and vulnerability is so important when we're in professional development. Like it's okay to just say, I'm so overwhelmed and how do I do this? And so that's how I try to approach when I'm presenting. Like I'm presenting because I know some stuff, but believe me, I don't know it all. And then same for
yeah.
listening. Like please teach me because the older I get, the dumber I.
Yeah, well, considering in the Department of Education, I'm about to go to it. If does anybody have any other comments about their courageous spaces or your safe space to be courageous? Okay, one. So, more the things that are the ideals, the mission and vision that guide the Department of Education. I think it's important to start there. And one of the things that stood out to me what you just said, Stephanie, about us being like we don't know anything. The better way to say that is being a continuous learner. And we in Department of Education, we really are passionate about that learning in all learners. And I believe as we sit in these seats in the Department of Education, Maine Department of Education, we see ourselves as learners, as educators. And so I want to make sure that I'm centering us in that space, knowing that there's two of us, especially there's four of us. We are all learning. I don't know more, or maybe I've learned or took two steps ahead, and I'm deciding to come back and say this is what I want to give to my fellow educators. I see you as colleagues, and I see the people who work for the Maine Department of Education as colleagues as well. And I'm honored to be a part of this team because of the mission and the shared vision that we have. Partnerships should strengthen trust, advance equity and excellence, and support safe and healthy learning environments. They should also contribute to continuous improvement, which I think that's the emphasis of what I'm trying to say. We are always getting better, always learning more. We expect that from ourselves and we expect that from our colleagues, just like we expect that from our students. A continuous improvement and a collaborative culture across the system, and that's what the core of what we believe. And I wanted to make sure that before we got into all of the things that I center us in that I'm great, but I'm better as a part of this team, and the things that I represent and the things that are represented in this presentation is based on our priorities, which is to inspire trust in our organization and in our public education system, to develop, support, and sustain a robust educator workforce. Thank you, ladies. And promote education excellence and equity for all Maine learners. Ensure student and school safety, health, and well-being. Supporting a culture of innovation and continuous improvement, and healthy and collaborative work environments, enhancing the potential of Maine Department of Education. So if you're already using this, give me an exact. I don't even have to tell you to put a check in the chat, because it's enough for us to have this conversation. Based on our priorities, if you're already using any of these, or if you already have this part of this mission and is in action for you already, I'd love to hear from you. Stephanie, you too, jump in. Just know that I'm talking to you too. Thank you, facilitator. We have a shared vision of a vibrant and respected educator workforce that innovates, leads, and inspires. Learning environments that are safe and supportive for all. Clear pathways to success in school and in life for every student. In schools as trusted community centers that foster civic participation and strengthen Maine's economy. In schools that nurture and potential for all to lead purposeful lives. So I just want to make sure that I made sure to highlight and uplift that, because that's who we are and that's what we do. And it's a part of what I do as a director of strategic partnerships. When we talk about partnerships, we want to talk about what we have, what we represent, so that we can find commonalities in whatever we're coming together to do or to change. And we'll get to that. Y'all have some time to work on that in your own context shortly. Okay. Some more Maine stuff. To anchor our work, we'll start with Maine's statutory definition. Maine defines school innovation as the process of using pilot programs and making significant changes to school structures as policies, roles, relationships, pathways, and schedules that influence teaching and learning. I'm uplifting this statute because, for the same reason as the last slide, the innovation we're discussing today is not some new activity for its own sake. It is intentional improvement to the structures that shape our learners' outcomes. Okay, Maine's definition gives us the what of innovation, the structural shifts that influence teaching and learning. Partnerships determine the how. The quality of the partnership decisions shape whether innovation is implemented with clarity, is accessible to the people that are most impacted, and is sustainable for the people doing the work. And I'll repeat that, making sure that it's implemented with clarity, it's accessible to the people that are most impacted, and it's sustainable for the people doing the work. We're transitioning now from the definition to practice by working through a few real partnership scenarios and naming decisions that strengthens outcomes and protect the trust. And so it'll be an open discussion. So I had breakouts planned, but we'll have an open discussion if that's okay with you, Stephanie, Morgan, and Audra. I think that'll be fun too. Be a nice little brain trust, a little think tank for us. All right. Okay. All right. I want to make sure. So Maine's definition of school innovation helps us name what we're changing. So like I said, it's policies, roles, relationships, pathways, and schedules, and why partnerships matter. And that's why partnerships matter. The next step is to translate that definition into practical decision making. So we'll do that through like real partnership scenarios, like I said. So I want you to select one area where innovation is most urgent in your context. So I'll get an opportunity to learn about you. So just tell me your name. I think we already know where you are, and where you're working, how you're working. Morgan, you can repeat if you'd like. But I want you to put the number or talk about the number. You see 1 through 7. Just talk about, or just do a post check. So tell me where your innovation is most needed in your context. And I'll give you a few seconds. And when you're ready, jump in. It could be 1, it could be 3. You probably don't want to say all 7, because that I doubt that's feasible or realistic. Your school's probably awesome.
There's 2 in particular that jump out to me. The first one's number 2, teaching and learning curriculum, because I was familiar with the math curriculum because it's what we had done at the last school I was in. So this is my second year kind of working with it, but we have a whole new ELA curriculum. And, when a curriculum's just kind of thrown at you and you're supposed to just dive in like you know what you're doing, really, we have no clue. And right now, a majority of us are hating it, and the kids hate it. So it makes it even harder to implement it. A lot of it is conversation based, the whole group in the classroom. And it's a lot of me just talking at them, which is very boring for them. So I'm trying to supplement a lot so that I can skip over lessons, but still cover what I need to keep the kids engaged. But
oh, this is gonna be fun. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll piggyback off Morgan. So I also think 2, but also 1, being able to access the extra like enrichment type pieces are a bit hard. We live, or not live, I don't live here, but I teach here. The community is very rural. It's 1 class per grade level. Besides, Morgan's class is big, so there's 2 5th grade classes. And it's definitely on the lower income scale of places. Choose almost, because it's like, this is, the kids have a lot of other things to worry about besides what we're presenting at school. So I'm finding for kids, sometimes it's really hard to get a buy-in, even in 4th grade. And also parent.
Oh, we're gonna make her repeat it because it sounds like it's good. And y'all are in the same school as well. Oh, this is gonna be a fun session. Oh, come back to us. We stopped at parent. You're back.
Oh, sorry. I just think that even parent engagement is very minimal. And it's not necessarily, it seems that parents are not interested in what's going on in the classroom, but are very apt to call our office and complain about the playground or the bus or this, but not necessarily be invested in what's going on in the child's classroom. So I think that engagement is something that is a concern of mine.
Thank you. Stephanie, do you have anything to add?
Well, I'm gonna go rogue because
Okay.
I've been kind of screaming about this stuff forever, because when I first started teaching, I was in inner city Cleveland. When you're in an inner city, there's a lot of needs, and it's like traditional methods of teaching doesn't really work. And like I was just like, I'm not going to teach these kids the scarlet letter. This is not what they need right now,
Right.
And then I moved to a career and technical school. And again, it was like, we need innovation. Like, these are kids who don't like traditional learning and sitting down and just reading classic novels or whatever. And that's when I really launched. And I started on English, got into special ed, did that for years and years. Endured a school shooting in Ohio, lost some students, worked at an alternative school to try and help those kids who need it the most. And then we finally moved here to Maine, to Ellsworth. And in my position, it's only a temporary position with the Department of Ed. I'm only here for 2 years, and then I go back to Ellsworth. And I love Ellsworth. My son's in Ellsworth. He loves Ellsworth. It's a great school system. But I don't think that there's a school system in this country that isn't struggling with a little bit of all those things. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
I
Like, I
agree.
think education's a hot mess. And I don't think it's anybody's fault. I think it's just there's so many things, right? And it's higher education. Like, it's just,
Right.
I think we've been doing the same things for decades. And now our society and our children have changed so much, and we have to adapt. And I think, because just the nature of the beast, education's been very slow to adapt. So
Mm,
as great as Ellsworth is, like, we need to work on the engagement. We need to work on curriculum and all the things. And I'm lucky because my superintendent knows that. And so she's really trying to kind of bring us out. And the other night I was excited because we just did a presentation to parents about technology. So we're trying to, because I think that's a very common problem, like Audra was just saying, like, parents in schools don't seem to talk to each other much, or they're just always pointing fingers at each other. And that's not going to work for our kids. It's not
yeah.
working clearly, right? So that was a really exciting moment for us. And the parents were really grateful. So we're hoping it's starting a movement, right? So I'm kind of on team all the things, even though that sounds negative.
No,
But
well, it's not negative, and I want to clarify. So, yes, I am team Office of Innovation. I think, and I am on team everything as well. That you can, for every year you got different kids. For every year there's a different experience. There's always ways to make it more relevant to your students, or their school experience more relevant to them. However, we'll get to this section and we'll probably talk about it again, but making it sustainable is super important, because I've got so many dreams. I've got so many things. I can walk into a school and say all the things, but there's so much connected to what makes this sustainable, what makes this accessible. And when I say this, I mean the learning experience to everybody in a way that's equitable and that's beneficial to their lives. And so that's a big task. So when I think about, you can take one, you can take three, but you're going to have to, that's a lot of partnering and a lot of teaming, because it's important to know that as big as we are only one, but we can do so much better together, and so much better in strategy, like making sure that we're not just saying, oh, we need to create more pathways to learning, or oh, our curriculum sucks and we need a new, like there's structure, there's team, and it's probably going to be slow in coming as we look up 10 years later and see, oh my gosh, this whole education system is different now than it was in 2020, and look up in 2030, it's going to look completely different, but we'll probably still feel the same. We'll probably still feel like we need to be innovating, because every year, different kids, different experiences, different needs for the society. So when I say, yes, I am team everything, however, for the purposes of this 2 hour, pick a couple, and y'all are in the same school. So so it's like, we don't want to nitpick. I won't cause no problems in Waldoboro. So we'll just pick a couple that seem like doable and impact, that will be impactful, that you can take back with you on Tuesday. Like I said, it'll take 50 years, and then we'll do it again if we wanted to track all seven. But let's start with something you can take back to school, or to your classroom, or to your school on Tuesday. And I heard 1, 2, and Stephanie. Well, let me go back to the team everything. You all talked about teaching, learning, and curriculum, and access and engagement. Man, I'm sure that all of that would be paired with student well-being and mental
I
health
was just going to say 4.
I'm trying, you see, I'm hesitating in my words, because you can be team everything. I'm like, if you get systems and operations, you're probably going to make more time for scheduling, which would probably make more time for student health and well-being, which would improve curriculum, which also would improve engagement. Because if my kid, if I'm not complaining about the bus, and there's none of those things to complain about, and the school feels, I feel like they're making time for me and making sure that I can access these things, it's going to be hard for me not to go to the school for a lunch and learn, or whatever whatever y'all are doing. But anyway, let's move on. See, Stephanie, you make sure you manage my time, because I mean, and it's a smaller group, so I can talk about Waldoboro all day. Okay, So we did our post check. I want to get into the scenarios because we got a lot of talking to do. Okay. So innovation becomes real through partnership decisions. How we define the outcome, how we set the roles and the decision rights, how we ensure access and representation, and how we protect trust through clear guardrails, clear boundaries. They're built around, partnerships accelerate innovation when they are built on clarity and accountability. So in the scenario ahead, we'll use these 4 essentials, and I think I'll bring them back a little bit. I do. We'll use these 4 essentials: outcome clarity, role clarity, access by design, and trust and boundaries or guardrails as our lens. So each scenario will help us identify what needs to be clarified, what needs to be protected, and what needs to be designed so that innovation improves outcomes and expands access. All right, y'all ready? All right, let's get started. All right. Just a reminder, clarity, define the outcomes and the measures of progress. These essentials support partnerships that are implementable and sustainable, like I talked about. We'll reference them repeatedly so that the scenarios produce practical takeaways and usable language. So I'm hoping that these conversations not only are good, but you can take some notes. Let's go through, access, removing barriers before the implementation begins in your partnership or your innovation. Trust, protecting student information, protecting our innovation. We talked about this. And avoiding capacity strain. We touched a little bit on that when we were talking about doing all 7. And accountability to establishing roles, establishing who has the right to make what decisions, and where we'll be reviewing our progress, holding people accountable, essentially. All right. All right, so your task is to determine the next moves that keep the relationship intact while strengthening readiness. So as we discuss, we'll focus on what you would clarify about the outcome, what boundaries you would set around student information, who needs to be involved early, and what needs to be in place before anything even begins. So we'll come back and we'll go through the scenario. I'll give you a few moments to take some notes. And then we'll come in, and because it's a smaller group, we'll talk about what your next steps would be to strengthen clarity, access, and trust in this situation. All right. So scenario 1, pace, visibility, and student information. A community organization offers support for an innovation in your school that your school wants. So I'm thinking we talked about what you're focused on. Just think about what we talked about in those 7 innovations. They want to begin quickly, and they request public recognition and visibility, access to student information to target services, and a quick agreement right now, but they'll figure out the details later. So what's your next move? And I'll give y'all a couple of moments. I won't play the Jeopardy.
Are we speaking as teachers, or like, are we wearing our teacher hat for this?
That's a good question.
Because in reading this scenario, like this would be I would tell my principal.
Yeah.
Like this doesn't feel like a me thing if I'm wearing my teacher hat.
Yeah, somebody comes to you and you're bringing them to the principal. I want you to step into a leadership role. I want you to step into a leadership role. Okay. What do you think your principal would do, should do? What's their next move based on the reason why you think this is not a me thing?
Because you know why this is for more information. She would want more information, more details, and like relevance to whatever we are doing in the classroom.
How about you, Miss Morgan?
Well, we have the same principal, so.
Would that be your move as well?
Oh, yeah.
So now I want you to, Stephanie, how about you? In the classroom, you got somebody, you meet them on the street or meet them in the supermarket, and they're like, oh my gosh, we've got this mental health thing that is awesome. And we think that digitally, we can get it to everybody. We want to make sure that everybody has access to this thing. We think it's great. How about you?
I think the details are important. It's so bad, you guys, because I'm like the person who wants to believe that like there's good in everybody, but now I'm like, well, what's their motivation? Like, are they just trying to sell a product? Where are they coming from? Why do they want to partner with us? Are they truly out for the student's best interest? So I think, the first thing is just to get more details and find
Right.
out what they have to offer and what they're willing. Are they truly in it for a partnership, or are they trying to just promote themselves and get on our Facebook page?
So what would be your sentence? And I'm gonna come back around because teacher for Audra and Morgan, it's let me get my principal about that. Although I don't know, I think the conversation would be, so I would say even bringing this to your principal, you would probably want to screen some stuff. I would think, because I'm not bringing everything to my principal. Maybe it's a good idea. Maybe they just want money because all the things you just said, Stephanie. But keep going. I'm sorry. I cut you off. Okay, because I would want to know if it's beneficial to even entertain the innovation. I was being funny, like, oh, they've got this virtual thing that is mental health or wellness, SEL Today program software that they think would be really good.
If it was something that they were talking and I was like, oh, this sounds really great, I'd be like, oh, let me talk to my principal. And then I would go speak to my principal. If they were telling me something and I said in my head, think absolutely not, I'd say you should reach out to my principal. So I would do either one of those things. Because then it wouldn't be a me thing if I wasn't interested. But if I was interested, then I would kind of like take that head on a little bit more, that conversation with the principal. But if it was something that I wasn't necessarily into, then it would be like, sure, here's my principal's information. You can call her if this is something you think our school would need. I wouldn't necessarily guide them there, but.
Morgan?
I do think that at this school, our principal would be more open to listening or entertaining ideas of teachers. Unfortunately, in my last school, I don't think that it would be really worth it for me to even say anything to my principal, just because there's such a, like, I'm above you.
Is that a strong hierarchy?
Yes.
That's interesting that y'all
Chain of command is kind of what they refer to.
That's the last school.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's where I live.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you maybe, I keep going back to that list of 7 because if you're not in a space where innovation is the norm, there may be some, okay. I am recording. Hi, everybody. Hope this is engaging to you and sparking thoughts for you, just like it is for us. But I want to make, okay, I'm going to come back around. In a leadership role, so you say you do have, there's what do you call it? Collaborative leadership in your school. This magic wand, everybody is free to innovate, free to entertain certain opportunities. I'm curious to know what you would think. Well, what would be some of the outcomes? What would you be looking for? What would be an innovation that would spark your interest? And with somebody bringing that to you, what are some of the risks involved in their requests and their asks?
I think a potential risk is like additional things put on your workload that you already have going on at school. Sometimes taking on a partnership with somebody else, whether you're bringing something into your classroom or the school, you are taking on more work. So do you have that availability, the bandwidth to take something else on?
Thank you. That's good. And when I want to talk about conditions too, what needs to be true in order for this to happen? What are some of the conditions? Well, we actually touched base on that. Like you were talking about, Morgan, if there's a hierarchy and there's no space to innovate, that's a condition that's necessary. Like, do you have the leadership that trusts their teachers or their classroom teachers with innovative practices.
I feel like here there is, but it also a big part of it is getting buy-in from teachers, especially teachers who have been doing it for a really long time that are set in their ways and don't want to go outside of that. I know that this principal has tried really hard to do new things and implement good things because it wasn't like that before she came. But getting the buy-in from everybody has been the difficult part.
Yeah. And I will say she's worked really hard the last 3 years because before our principal now, they had like a different principal for like every year for like 9 years. So she's like the first principal that stayed like for longer than a year or two. This is her 3rd year. So I feel like she's had to do a lot of work. And so we are slowly getting buy-in from all the staff. So like now we are seeing some like cooler things happen within the school, which is nice. But I think like she's done a lot of work proving that she's like a team player, not a hierarchy figure, which I think is being responded well to here.
Yeah, and that's good to know because as we work through these activities, I'm hoping that I can follow up with you too to see if, having that conversation with your leadership, like this is, I had a great time thinking about partnering for innovation. Here's some ideas and what that looks like in Waldoboro. I'm interested to know. No pressure. Just, I'm curious. It's my job as a partnerships director at DOE. Like, how'd that go? I got time for it. Okay. I have a break coming up. Does anybody need a break? And I can move it to when we need one again. But I'm like, here's the time for a break. I can maybe give us 2 minutes to refill. But I see y'all are hydrated. We can go right into the session. The next.
I'm fine.
You good, Morgan? How you doing, Stephanie?
I'm good.
All right. Yay. So we can skip in. Let's do another one. Okay. Thinking in the same way. So we're going to, for the scenarios, now that I have the audience, I'm going to go through you as a teacher, as a classroom educator. Maybe we can do another level of because we're talking about partnerships and collaboration. What would your next move be? How are you thinking about this? You should be thinking about the person beside you anyway. And Stephanie, I would love for you to give, in your context, being at the department, but also being in the classroom, your take on the scenario as well. So this one is about alignment and representation. A partner proposes an innovation to support students. The idea is well-intentioned, but the school's priorities are different. The plan was developed without input from the people most impacted. And the partner expects quick agreement because the funding is available. First of all, I've been in this situation a couple of times where the conversation, and this is more about what do you do next? How do you have this conversation? Also, how do you address the situation or the circumstances or the people without burning a bridge, for lack of a better term? I don't think we have a new term for that, but without damaging a relationship, because if the funding is available now and it, like you said, the workload for some of the things that we want to do to start up, and I keep thinking about example 1 and 2 for curriculum and that access and engagement idea. So that's what I'm keeping in my head, even though it's really hard to not think about all of them. But when you respond, it's your choice. But when I'm thinking about that innovation in curriculum and access and engagement, that means that we're going to need more people and resources. And 9 times out of 10, as a classroom educator, you don't have time to fill out those RFPs or RFAs to get the funding you need for those really cool things you want to do in your classroom. It takes funding, it takes resources. And usually it comes with those partners who come to you first and let you know that they're available. We don't need you now. We may need you, or we need more, or our priorities aren't the same on this, but maybe they will be down the line. The conversations shift when you think strategically about how you want to partner. And so for this one, I want you to keep in mind the innovation that you've already had in mind, and think about some of the priorities that may be different from an organization. And I won't name any organizations for, leave the stories, take the lesson. But for those organizations who may be big, may have big ideas, man, I keep thinking the names of those big funders or foundations that really want to support. And in Maine, people live right next door to you sometimes, or you run into people who have the resources or have really big ideas and know that you're an educator and see you as somebody that can make some moves or that can access your principal. Think about those instances or those scenarios. Um, and I'll give you a couple of moments and I'll silence myself.
I will say this is my 11th year teaching, and I don't think I've
Ooh, thank
ever
you.
I don't think I've ever um had like a company or a place want to partner where it's offering money or a collab in that way. Um,
Mm-hmm.
when I've reached out to like businesses or places to do like field trips or something in my classroom, it's always been free up here,
Yeah.
like a free service. Um, so I'm kind of at a loss. Like I've never
I'll
been
say
in that.
resources. So,
Yeah.
because the resource is coming from somewhere, it's never free. So, I want y'all to, so this will be a growth moment for us too. Like when they are
Yeah.
given those resources, um, it's usually based on a priority that they have or
Mm.
some plan that they have. So they're giving that money away. So like there's like a free museum visit for a trip or something like that.
Yeah.
It's based on them saying they want their community engagement, for
Okay.
example. So when you think resource, I don't think funding. Think free.
Okay.
think I'm
I'm like,
looking for
I don't know a single
resources.
thing.
Yeah, I'm thinking resources, and I'm sure, like when you say field trips, what are some other ways that are some other things that you've done in your classroom, or more
I
some things you're thinking about doing in your classroom? Let's keep it in context.
when I taught first grade at another district, one of our units was like how mothers care for their young, like a science unit.
Oh,
And I reached out to a family friend who was a Maine guide, and they brought in a bunch of uh like mounts, furs, stuff that like was applicable to like Maine, and talked about how mother animals in Maine care for their young because we were doing a lot of like elephants, sea turtles, and it's not stuff that kids are seeing up here. So I wanted to keep it
hmm.
relevant. And because he was a family friend, that was all free, you know. Um, so he brought all his stuff to the school, and the first 2 years we did it, it was just first grade, and then by the third year he did it, it was like open from like K to 5 went down, and he presented to everybody.
See, and there's so much connected to that when I think about how they were able to do that, how he was able to, like the funding and the resources are connected to that. And so I guess this
Mm,
is a learning moment. Like to get that done and to make that happen, it's you don't even know the magic you made happen. It just so happened that he was your friend and lived next door, but that's a big deal.
yeah, it was very cool because I mean like kids were literally holding like a whole deer mount like like a head, you know what I mean, like, and they don't get to see that. And he brought in antlers, and
Ew.
he he went out into like the woods and like cut what they forage on at different times of the year, and it was very cool. Yeah, there's actually
So
an article in the Bangor
you didn't
Bang.
have an issue with the plan being developed without input from people most impacted, because it sounds like the fact that you wanted to do this field track is because the material was not relevant in
Mm,
main context.
yeah.
Okay. Sorry to cut you off. I just want to make that clear like that.
No, I like
Yeah.
it. There's an article in the like the Rustic County newspaper from, God, this was like 7 years ago when I did that. But there's a whole article about it where he like explains like his point, like why he did it.
I'm going to add that to the resources. If you can find it and send it to me, I'm sure people watching would want to read that. I'm going to. How about you, Morgan? What are some things you're thinking about?
Well, I've had
And I got
Hope
some
and
funding for
Justice
you,
coming
so you
in.
got to make it
Yeah,
quick.
I've had Hope and Justice coming in a little bit, which was something they did in the past anyway. So I was just asked if I wanted to continue to do it. And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? So I just linked up with them. I was sent the email of who to talk to. And so I've had someone coming in doing SEL with them a little bit because our school of social workers doesn't really have time to do that. Um, so that's been going on. And then I also have junior achievement starting in March. So that's another thing. I was just asked if I wanted to continue to do that. And so I signed up and they're coming in
Oh, getting
March.
lucky with your partnerships.
Yeah.
Okay. So this would be a good turn then. I would love to. Oh, Stephanie, I don't want to leave you. Okay, so you're going to give me some feedback on what strengthens partnership. So I want to capture what made your approaches, how you went about. So now we have these actual examples, your field trip, and what you have junior achievement. You said hope and justice.
Yeah.
I really want to know more about that. Maybe. Well, I think that'll be a good. That's just relevant for this. But I'm curious about what your thoughts are about the partnership and what's.
It's pretty cool. It's nice. It could be really boring for some of the kids, but the way that the guy presents it, he's very entertaining. Of course, I stay in the room anyway to help with keeping kids engaged, but he does a great job and does like a hands-on activity, which is nice. And then he'll ask for someone to help volunteer. It's only like 45 minutes, so it's pretty quick, but enough to get a point across.
Nice. Okay. So, sorry, thank you for veering off a little bit. Again, I wanted to talk about your approach. You said you got him for your friend next door. You already knew. So, who did you involve? Like, were they able to just come to your classroom and you just told your principal? Like, what was the process?
For me.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Audra. What was the
Um,
process? Your
so
field trip.
I talked to my team about it because the I used to work at a bigger school where there was 4 first grade teachers per grade level. So it was a team discussion where we were looking to add like a field trip or some other thing into our school year. And that's when I suggested that we try to do Maine animals because it's relevant to where they live. And it's kind of crazy how many people haven't seen a moose and they live in Maine. So,
I
um,
feel.
which is so crazy because I feel like I see them all the time, but we're also very outdoorsy. We do a lot of things outdoors.
Okay.
So I said I have a couple people who I can reach out to. I had my family friend, I had a game warden that lives locally that I was going to reach out to. Um, and I reached out to, I think, a biologist. And the person that responded to me first was the family friend who was a registered Maine guide. And then it was just kind of, I told him what our unit was on and kind of what we were looking for. And then he said, okay, give me a little bit of time. And he kind of came up with something, sent it back. I brought that to the team. We agreed on it. And then he came in.
Mm, I have a question. What did you involve the families of the students at all? Like, what did that communication look like?
It was kind of like in our newsletters, it went home
Okay.
on this day. So and so Maine guide is going to come explain XYZ to us. And that was
Okay.
kind of that.
All
Kind
right,
of like
thank
this
you.
is a little enhancement on our mothers taking care of their young unit. And it
Thank
was
you.
posted, and I know they posted on like the school Facebook page and stuff like that. So
And so they were aware. Were
Mhm.
they like they weren't able to come in? This was like a school class thing. Like he came into the
Yes.
school.
So the first year we did it, it was before COVID, um, when we did it. And then the two times after, it was after COVID.
Mm-hmm,
So it
mm-hmm.
was a
Nobody's.
no.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, what a time! What a time! So, Miss Morgan, how about your plans? Y'all in the same school, and but you are new, and we have somebody who's got a little bit of seniority. Like, how
Mhm.
long have you been at Audrey? Have you been in the same place the whole time?
So I am at this is my second year at Washburn as a teacher. I was at Caribou for 6 years prior to that. And then my first 2 years teaching, I was at two other schools. So this is my second year at Washburn.
So I'm feeling like this session, we get to focus on like what it looks like to partner in rural communities,
Mhm.
because this is the presentation itself is very broad. And so, yay, have fun with the slides. But this conversation for me is like, okay, what does it look like to bring innovation to a place like Washburn? And right. And these are, I'm gonna be honest, I've only been here for 9 years, and so this is very new to me, and so I am learning. So thank you for sharing your experiences. Okay, Morgan, back to you. What did that process look like for you to get this ball rolling? Who partnered? Who'd you include? Who'd you talk to in the beginning to make it happen?
To be honest, I didn't really have to do anything. My
We're gonna make you work harder in the next
I
half of this session.
yeah, my team fifth grade teacher, this is stuff that she's done, and asked me if I wanted to do it along with her. And I'm open to doing different things. So I was like, yeah, sure. So she just
Okay.
forwarded me emails and I reached out to who I had to. And they already knew exactly what I was talking about. So we just scheduled when they were coming in. But
Okay.
I must say, where we live, like,
Hmm.
Audra was from Caribou, I was from Presque Isle. Like, it's an area where you pretty much everybody knows everybody. So, like, Audra and I knew each other long before we both worked here. It's kind of like that for everybody.
Mhm.
So, it's kind of easy if you have a goal of someone working in a specific field to come in and talk. It's easy to find a connection just because everybody kind of knows everybody.
Oh, so I'm taking notes on the challenges that I'm going to have to set for these conversations. So I'm going to stretch our thinking in this beautiful brain trust that we have. Okay. So you said for both Hope and Justice and for the Junior Achievement, which I think Junior Achievement is a program that's well established. So
Yep.
it's innovation, but it's a pre-established innovation that you get to jump into and make your own. Okay.
Mhm.
But we're going to stretch you. So I'm gonna have you thinking. Let me see. What do I have now? I'm like, do we have scenario 3? Let's see. Okay, maybe this will. Okay, many partnerships start with momentum, and then reality hits. Staff capacity gets tight, communication increases, and the work starts to feel heavier than the outcomes. So I want us to discuss or decide what you would do to stabilize the partnership. Think about the decisions that keep people from burning out, defining roles and decision rights, tightening the scope, setting a communication rhythm that's manageable, and creating a review point where you can adjust instead of pushing through the strain. Right? So a school partnership begins with strong energy and early results. Then, after a few weeks or months, school staff start to feel stretched, partners' tasks are unclear, communication increases, outcomes feel less clear, tension arises about who owns what. So, I want you to take a few moments to answer those questions specifically. And you don't have to think about, you can think wider, because I feel like y'all got it easy over there. Everybody knows everybody. So your family, you're familiar, and there aren't really, a lot of clashes that happen because you're all, flowing in the same way. But think about some things that you may want to do with your school or with your kids that stretch your capacity, or that would stretch your capacity if this feels out of context for you. So what would you do to stabilize the partnership? Define roles, decision rights, tighten the scope, set communication rhythms that feel manageable. And Audra, I feel like I can take your past tense, but because that was so successful, you can tell me why and what staff roles or whatever. But I would love for you to think about something that will come up that maybe you're like, all right, I think I can do this year. And what would you do to prevent burnout, stretch? Like, what would be some of those roles that, in your experience over the, you've been there for a while, what are some roles that you need to have, some tacit agreements that need to be on paper instead of in people's heads, for example?
I feel like if I am partnering with somebody, making sure that even if it's like phone conversations or in-person conversations, that there's some type of notes written up, or like sending an email saying, like, reviewing what was talked about, just so bless you, just so everybody's on the same page. Because you would hate for like two different perspectives to be had and that not be communicated. And I think reiterating what was discussed in an email or just in writing, and hey, does this look fine? Am I missing anything? Just to keep everybody on the same page. I think we do that a lot anyway as teachers when we have conversations with people, as opposed to school staff feeling stretched. If I was in an administrator position, that I wouldn't be delegating things to people who aren't willing to have things be delegated to them. So ensuring that whoever is going to partner at the school for the innovation is willing to hold on, please. Lila, get off the floor near the bathroom. That's gross.
Lila, ew. We'll cut that.
She's just laying on the floor right in front of the bathroom. I'm like, what are you doing?
Good times.
So it would just make sure that whoever at the school is working with the partner, that they have the capacity to do that. Because I think the worst thing is being delegated to do something and your plate's already full, because then you have resentment towards the task.
And you know what I find too that is really important? To talk about that capacity often, because at times we are in situations where it feels good in January, and then in February, bam, something happens in school, independently or individually in your own personal life, where instead of pushing through it, like, I hope we have spaces that say, hey, how's everybody doing? Does this still feel good to you? I don't know that we always do that.
I feel like that. I agreed to be on a leadership team at school this year, and I have a 5-month-old. And I'm like, why did I do that?
It's doable, but that also can be, again, understanding what your role is. I think a lot of times we go on good feelings and it feels good, and we don't
like a real good idea.
Yeah, and we don't name things, and then there isn't something that we are like a pocket for if somebody, decides they want to go to Tahiti for a year and they're out. And now we have one less person, and we don't have a plan for what that looks like. It's hard to do that at the beginning of something, even especially the fun stuff, like even for a trip or for a big end of the year celebration or whatever. Like where everybody wants to be there, and then who knows what hits, Yeah. How about you, ma'am, Morgan?
I'll be honest, this is a little bit above my head.
Well, we're to stretch you. I said that.
So,
we're stretching you. So when staff feel stretched, and when have you been in, well, this time you're going, we can look at is it 5th grade?
Mm-hmm.
We can use yours. What are your roles? Are you just going by, or have you all decided like, okay, these are the things we're doing. This is the person that's going to own it. You said somebody sent an email. Is that the person that is the lead and she just does, or they do all the things, or who's
Yeah,
communicating?
so the primary fifth grade teacher, who's been the fifth grade teacher here for quite some time, is the one who has kind of taken the lead. Um, Obviously, I run my room quite a bit different than she does,
Right?
but um, yeah, I've stuff like that I've just kind of taken off of her. Um, my role's a little different too because I'm gonna be moving grades with this group of kids.
Hmm.
So like next year I won't be in fifth grade anymore. I'll be up in sixth grade. Um, so I don't want to get too comfortable
Got it.
and
That's
establish
important.
things because it won't be as relevant next
Mm.
year.
That's
So
important.
yeah.
You say it as if that's like, so that's pre-planning. You're setting boundaries here because things will change in the next 6 to 18 months. So yeah, uh, thank you for that feedback. Hey, Steph, how about you?
I think, something that I really noticed when I was Ellsworth's district instructional coach with teacher frustration, like teachers always feel stretched thin, right? It's really hard to be a teacher these days. And, so they would come to me and they're like, we're really frustrated because blah. And most of it came down to a lack of organization and structure, whether it was, like kind of like what you said, like, well, who's responsible for this? What is the end goal? Like, so I think that was the key to a lot of the issues. And sometimes I think the issue was like, so there were times I was like, okay, well, let's try and empower you guys. Like, how do you want it to be? And then they were like, yeah, but the trick is we're too tired to think about that. Like, just tell us what to do. And
Yeah,
so, it's that tricky balance where sometimes people do feel empowered. They're like, well, let me organize it and take care of all the things. And then there's other times when they're like, you know what? The more I think about it, just tell me what to do. Just give
yeah,
me the structure. So I think what you said, Ayesha, was really important is to have that constant check-in because one month you really might be like, I can do this. And then the next month you're like,
mm-hmm.
forget it. I was just kidding. You know what I
Because
mean?
we try to push through, and it looked like that. And for me, the way um, the work in education goes is that things change so quickly. Needs change so quickly because you're working with a whole bunch of different personalities. Like this is the one place where everything comes together, and we try to work to go in the same direction. It's just you need and scope clarity. Like, am I going to be in this role forever? I'd like to know that I'm only going to be doing this for 6 months, and then I'll be really like with Morgan, like I'm only going to be here for this amount of time. So that gives me clarity as to what my boundaries are and what role I can actually play, so that this is sustainable in the long run. Yeah, because you don't want to be like Morgan's out, then the next fifth grade bunch comes through, and there's a teacher or educator that is completely different, or the style from Morgan is completely different, and so the rest of the crew will be different, and so we need to be mindful that that's going to come up in the end. Like we think, oh, this is going to be great, this is forever and ever, and we don't think there's an end to this part. And there's a milestone here, or right, like you have a 6 month old or 5 month old.
5 months.
Yeah, so that means 5 months ago you was pregnant, and and then now your things are totally different for not just you individually, but for the team or the partnership or the collaboration that you were
Yeah.
working in. And so, knowing that and setting your own boundaries and your own expectations and knowing what outcome, like I'm doing this because this is my first time in it, and I'm just really trying to learn the ropes. And so good. I'm glad I know that. I won't give you 50,000 different responsibilities because I know you need to process one or two things really well so you can be a great educator going forward. Those are the things that, when we think about the things that are out in front, explicit, those are great. But the tacit and the things we don't say, I think those are great to have on paper too sometimes. And it helps with sustaining partnerships and sustaining those innovative ideas.
Mhm.
All
Honestly,
right.
it sounds like if we're going to try and establish partnerships with whomever or whatever or whenever, it's like we need an IEP for it. And I hate to say that because there's like, in my eyes, when I was special educator, there's nothing worse than writing IEPs. Like, it's just not my favorite thing at all. But they have a good, the structure is good. What's the problem? How are we going to fix it? Who's going to be involved? What's the end game? You know what I mean? So if we could write an IEP for a community partnership, but that's an easier template than an actual IEP, I think would be a good goal.
I'm telling you. So that's how I live my life. I don't call them IEPs. I change the name all the time, but we need a plan. We need a strategy like that. And maybe that's the school psychologist in me, that everything needs a plan. And if you're not planning where you're going, if you're not looking for a specific outcome, that is where burnout happens. That is when people feel stretched, and that is when people start dropping, and the great idea just that was huge at the beginning dies off. And we like, I don't know what happened, or I don't know if it's Maine or me, but we have a tendency to just let things just die, just let things just go, and we forget about it, or we never like process it and move it to the side and say, all right, we're going to start here. We're going to start this. I think milestones are super important. And if we're done with it, let's talk about why we're done with it and what we learned from that. But I think with that, it comes with processing and leaving time for processing, which I'll bring it back to. Ayesha believes we can innovate on everything. But when you do innovate on all those things, you're not able to come back and stop with milestones, because we're all stretched and we're doing, I call it do more, try hard. That's what my inner do more, try hard. She wants to do all the things, but when it comes down to it, having the space to process, it's like, oh, I can't stop. It's because you're doing too much. And so that scoping clarity, role clarity, meeting rhythm, when we're going to meet, how we're going to meet, reviewing, and those review points like we talked about. And I also want to say, shared accountability and capacity protection. We touched on this, but I want to just name them. You might be in month 1 or week 1, like, I got it. This is awesome. But you understand already, you don't want to keep it to yourself, that I'll probably need somebody to tap me out in 4 months. That's a way to protect your boundaries, or plan for that. And that's how we sustain, whether it's a school trip or a big community program that we want to establish with a bunch of partners. It's the same thing. You want to have a rhythm. You want to make sure everybody knows who's involved. And you also, we already talked about this. I think we're all special education teachers and educators, but inclusion, making sure that we're focusing and centering the student and the family that are involved, and those that are being most impacted by that service or by that experience or opportunity. We want to make sure we check in and touch base with those people, those individuals, in the beginning, while we're dreaming and while we're planning, to make sure that the partnerships and the innovation is something that we know is going to be something they need and they want. Okay. All right. Oh, do I have another break? Okay, how y'all doing? This is me checking in. I would love a 2 to 4 minute break. I know your baby needs some attention. Usually when
I'm
my
just telling her
babies
not to bang the Apple Pen on the chair. That's all.
Oh, see? Yeah, we need a break. So
I'm like,
we're
girl,
gonna
that's expensive.
we're gonna take a 5-minute break.
Okay.
Stretch, grab some water. We'll come back at 10:20.
Okay.
All right.
All right, here we go.
All right. Welcome back, everyone. Just gonna jump in to the next section where we talk about areas of innovation. And we touched on these, told you to focus on those 1 and 2, you'll see that access and engagement isn't in here because access and engagement is connected to all of them. I think we alluded to that a little bit, or I did. But these are 4 common places where innovation shows up in schools. And so if they aren't yet, keep this in mind. So maybe this year you'll think about bringing some of these ideas to your leadership. And if you are in a space where you do have kind of a collaborative leadership model, think about bringing this to your teams when we get out of here. All right, so these are 4 common places of innovation. Teaching and learning includes shifts like curriculum adjustments, new instructional routines, or tutoring models that fit students' needs. Well-being includes work like strengthening attendance systems, improving family partnership, like I said, or tightening how supports are coordinated for mental health and behavior. Pathways and community-based learning includes work-based learning, community learning partnerships, and clearer bridges to post-secondary and careers. Systems and operations include the behind-the-scenes changes like schedules, staffing, structures, referral processes, and coordination routines that make everything else easier to carry and sustain. And so when I think about the people in the room right now, I believe these are really important to know. So when you are thinking about ways to innovate, that these are the decisions that go behind the scenes systems and operations. Like when you're thinking about what my students need, how they need to be their instruction to be delivered, what are some ways that you can bring those ideas to your leadership in ways that I guess tangible to them and easier to swallow if you think about it in ways like, all right, well, if we change the schedule, or if we worked in a different way on our team, making things work. If we bring volunteers in for certain parts of the school day, how can we make that happen so that I do have more space or capacity to do the things? So keeping that in mind for yourself. Other ways. Oh. And then after you name the focus area, it helps to name the innovation area for impact, what you're actually wanting to shift to make improvements possible. So sometimes the shift is in policy, like referral steps or data sharing expectations. Sometimes it's roles, who coordinates the work and who has decision rights. Sometimes it's relationships, communication routines, shared responsibility. Sometimes it's pathways, expanded learning opportunities students can access through your partners. I know we bring people in, but sometimes bringing our students, I know we bring people, our students out, but sometimes bringing people into the classroom can be something that from farther than just your neighborhood or just your own county can be some way that you can innovate and bring more to your students' experiences. The time structure, that's with their schedule, that makes access and implementation possible. I'm like, what does that say? All right. And your approach. When you think about partnerships, it helps to choose a collaboration style that fits the work and the capacity you have right now in the moment. Sometimes what's needed is coordination. Everybody is doing related work, and the priority is alignment, shared goals, clear handoffs. Like you do this and I'm doing that. Who do I email when something comes up? And consistent communication. Sometimes the work calls for co-delivery, and that looks like the partner is providing a service or experience, and the school is providing the access, the coordination, or the oversight so that the program runs smoothly and reaches the right learners. And sometimes we're co-designing things. Co-design is the best fit, especially when decisions affect roles, time, access, because shared problem definition and shared decisions prevent confusion, and it strengthens the trust from the beginning. Okay. So when you're thinking about, hey girl, when you're thinking about partnership approaches, I'm going to ask two questions. In your, in you too, you can answer. In your capacity right now, where does it fit for you in your context? And Stephanie, you can participate too, because right now, I'm sure you're doing coordinating, co-delivering, and co-designing because of the unique position that you're in. But Morgan, we'll start with you. We'll go to the Frost. Sorry. Hey, girl. Okay, we'll start with you, Morgan.
I these are hard ones for me just because there's not a whole lot of team stuff that happens here because there's typically only one teacher per grade.
Yeah.
So you're almost like on your own little island. I do bounce things off of Audra or my co-teacher, but typically off Audra.
I love that y'all are here together.
We have very similar teaching styles, and we both are very set in our classroom routines that we've established with our students. And there's, I've noticed quite a few other classrooms, it's not quite like that to the extent of our rooms. So I usually coordinate with her or bounce things off of her.
Nice. Well, Audra, and I'm sure you are reading, but you can jump right in. It seems like I said, you have some seniority at your school. And so I'm curious to know your answer, where you fall, like, what does it look like for you? What's your approach in the capacity that you're in right now?
So it might seem that I have seniority. Like this is my 11th year, but only my second year here.
So your seniority in how intelligent and knowledgeable you are, but
yeah. And a lot of the other teachers are like 20, 25, 30 years. And I will say very respectfully, coming from a bigger school to the smaller school, I feel like I went into a time warp and I went back to teaching in the 90s. It's very,
I know that feeling.
Very different. So I do think that's why Morgan and I chat often, because we are a bit more into the new type of ways, you know what I mean? Like
so you have
not being afraid to try things.
I was gonna say, you have a pretty big responsibility to your learners in that school, then, the both of you.
Yeah.
And so as much as the influence, sometimes authority is great, but the influence that you have is way more impactful, it seems, in your situation, because you're in a small and rural community. I might have to come down or up there, to follow up with some of this, to see, like, what does innovation look like? What does it look like to step out of that routine for your students and give them a little bit, something that they weren't expecting, or something that, you can bring that's unique to them.
This school is very similar to the school I went to growing up. I went to a K-12 school, and we had like 15 kids in our grade, K to when I graduated. And this school is very similar. Like my class is 18, and there's 18 kids in the whole fourth grade. Where the other school I taught at, there was 85 kids.
I love Maine.
Yep, in the grade, and they were split up into 4 groups. Morgan went to a school that was bigger, where there was, 3, 4 teachers per grade level, and now she's teaching in a small school. So it's just a small school in Maine, considered big and considered small. So I'm just trying. I know what I missed out on in school. going from a younger school, by the time you get to high school, you have 4 study halls in your schedule. So because we don't have stuff to offer, luckily my most of the small schools do, or I don't know if they do anymore, but partnered with UMPI, the University of Maine Presque Isle, in the aspirations program. So in high school, I was able to go take classes at UMPI. I don't know if they still do that anymore, but that was like a partnership that some of the small schools have to offer classes. But I think in some of these rural places, a lot of things sound like a really nice idea, but the practicality of it happening is minimal.
Oh, yes, I do. But I'm like, I'm getting fired up because I'm like, well, what do we need to do to make it practical?
No, and I totally think Morgan and I chatted just quickly on the break where it's just like some stuff seems very out of reach at times for the smaller schools, because our options are find something innovative to do, but it's got to be free. Because we don't have, or even the process of applying for a grant. I don't have grant writing experience. We don't have a grant writer for our district. So it's just very to apply for grants is very
intimidating.
Yeah, for sure, because it's just something I don't have experience with.
And so you would need a partner who
would have that experience, but not take advantage of us. You know what I mean? Not because we're not educated, but just because it's just an area we don't have experience in. And it's been a lot of like work with what you got and make it happen. Yeah. So that's kind of the rural we're at. Like I consider our area sometimes like hillbilly elegy. Like I really think we're like up there.
I love Maine. I love so that brings me back to the scenario back then where you don't have people coming to you saying, "Ooh, we really have this great idea and we've got this funding and we want to start this and we need to." Okay.
I don't necessarily think some of those small schools would be the schools that those types of places would go after if their goal was attention and we want to put it out there that
recognition.
Yes. Like would our school, who is definitely on the poorer end of the scale, be the school that someone would want to work with? I don't necessarily know if they would. You know what I mean? So I think there's other options that they would typically go to, like a Caribou or a Presque Isle, because those are the bigger schools in our area. The littler schools, I don't really know if they would want to partner with we're like a one schoolhouse school compared to some of the other bigger districts. So
I would also say that the community engagement is quite minimal here as well. So like, getting your parents to buy in and support whatever you're trying to do is probably not going to happen as much, just because they don't even really
they don't come to parent teacher conference.
Right. They don't back up even the education part of it, because I feel like a lot of them are just very, they're either low income and they are focused on just going to work and coming home, and the kids kind of fend for themselves.
Yeah.
Or don't really care as much.
My heart is racing. I'm like, there's so many things to do. So many. Okay. This is why I love Maine and I love the work I do. Cause I'm looking forward to following up to see and coming to see, because I'm like, I push back on that. There are so many different organizations and programs seeking out, like, how do we improve the experience for rural Maine students that they just.
And that's awesome to hear for us. And we would obviously be interested in partnering with someone and bringing different things to our school, because our kids also deserve those kinds of things.
Yep.
But
absolutely.
Like Aroostook County is like 10 years behind downstate. Like, I mean, we really are in the grand scheme of things. Like we just got a ViewSonic board last year. We were just using whiteboards still. You know what I mean? Like like technology wise, we are just kind of behind. So the offerings are just, we're like making steps and progress and that kind of thing, but it's just yeah, I just feel like we're very behind the rest of the state when it comes to just education and like life in general. Like we are very
Yeah, we mainly focus on trades and farming. Like those are the things that are most important here. Not so much, your ability to write and
yeah.
like that's just not that important to most people up here.
And also, Maine being known for its agriculture and its craftsmanship and trade is a big deal.
Yeah.
And it's being uplifted, but should be, because it's not that it's not important, it just isn't the top priority. And I think that's okay. And understanding and knowing, again, when we talk about outcomes and who you partner with, knowing and understanding where your values lie, and not in a way of, oh, we need to do better there, but this is who we are. This is the community we're serving, and having a clear definition of what it is that we can do to foster those priorities is important. Because if we get caught up in, oh, well, this school does this, or we need this kind of technology, or whatever the case may be, that's where those great ideas end up dying, for lack of a better term. It's like, we don't want ideas. This is where ideas go to die. But it's true when you try, like your outcome is really important, and basing your outcome on what the actual people who you're serving, what they need, is going to help with that. I'm curious to hear from you, Stephanie, because I'm thinking about LTT and all the resources that we bring, and the priority that we have is that to reach all learners, especially those learners in the district who think that they do not even, we're not considered to have, we don't need access. Ain't nobody thinking about us. Yeah, we are. When we say all learners, we're thinking about those in rural communities as those most underserved and most impacted. Hey, Steph.
I know Donna Netzer was an MLTI ambassador the previous 2 years, and she's from Washington County, and it's the same issue there. Just very rural, very underserved, and she would just scream from the hilltop, like, "Please, like we're here too, and our kids need the same things." And I think as I've kind of been getting to know the Department of Education the last year and a half, like I really think they're trying to turn that tide. I've seen more and more things kind of like, yes, let's acknowledge these huge counties and these, all of these kids that are within. So that's the good news, is I think, that recognition is definitely there. Like we've definitely got to do something about that. So that's the good news. But I think that, we were talking about that in Ellsworth the other night, because Ellsworth is obviously we're a pretty big city, but it's very eclectic. We have just all kinds of people within it. And so when we had our first family tech night the other night, we had these amazing parents that showed up. But oftentimes at parent nights, it's the parents that probably didn't need to come, right? Like they already kind of knew the thing and they cared and that kind of thing. So it's, how do you get the buy-in? How, like, if we have these innovations and we have these ideas, like we said earlier, how do you get the teacher buy-in, and then how do you get the community to buy in?
Yeah.
And so I've been thinking a lot about that. And my thing has always been, ever since I first started teaching, was we've got to make it relevant, right? Like when I was in Cleveland, I'm like, how do I make Scarlet Letter relevant to these kids, right? And 2002 Cleveland. And because all of us don't want to learn something if we don't care about it, or if it doesn't affect us. It doesn't matter who we are. So how can our small schools with no resources and no money and get that message across that academics and blue collar work do not have to be mutually exclusive? That always drove me crazy working in career and tech ed for 10 years. Like, you can be well-read and literate and good in technology and be a hell of a welder at the same time.
Yep.
Like they don't have to be two separate things. So how can we get that message across? How can we say, to the farming community, here's this cool thing, how you can use technology to improve your farming. Or here's how you can use this free technology to, improve your auto tech business, or, just something to try and marry those two worlds. I think is what we have to start focusing on as schools trying to reach the community. Like instead of fighting and saying, I see that so much in our society, like it's academic, it's white collar versus blue collar. And I'm like, why? Why are we? That's such a shame because.
And I'm like, oh, I'm both all the time, and a couple of other things as well, which is what I pride in being a Maine resident, that I'm allowed to be all those things and prioritize how I need to when I want to. I know when we talk about local control, and it seems like such a taboo or bad term, but for me, it's one of the things that keep, like, the fact that I can coordinate, co-deliver, and co-design with just about anybody, any type of person across the state. That's not something that you can do everywhere. There's a lot of different things that you don't consider that's free to you here that, co-designing comes with a lot of red tape in a lot of other places. Whereas if you're in your town and you want to make something happen, it's fairly easy to get people. If you got the people on board and you're going in and you've come to those agreements about these are the outcomes you want, getting things moving in Maine is really easy compared to a lot of different places and a lot of different states. So like I said, you're either smoothing us along. When you think about partnerships, it helps to choose the collaboration style that fits the work and the capacity you have in the moment. And that sometimes is coordinating, that sometimes is co-delivering, and co-designing. So I think we've just given all three of those examples for the three of you just now. And so I want to just do a quick access and equity check. Sorry. As you're choosing partners and planning the work, this is the check that keeps the partnerships grounded in access and trust. And a lot of this you all talked about as well, and we've touched on few different things. I heard trust come up and resonate with Audra when we think about people not taking advantage of us. Like that really stood out for me. That's that trust piece. Start with the most impacted by the challenge and make sure that they have a meaningful way to shape the decisions early, not after plans are finished. Really important. And then we're naming barriers also that show up quickly. In Maine settings, it's usually language access, being in a rural community, rural reach, technology, caregiver schedules, disability access, the timing. Thinking about those, because barriers since we're in this space of rural versus, I think we have a couple of different people that had the dichotomy of rural versus a really big city or suburban town. But the barriers can look and feel different when we're talking about access. Trying to get somebody to come to a PTO meeting looks different for you all than it is for somewhere like, I would say Portland, for example. Very different. And so thinking about that is important. We think about our barriers being different for different parts of our state. It's like every county is a different country for me. And then clarifying how the partnership expands opportunity and improves outcomes, and naming trust and guardrails you need, especially around student information. I keep saying that, and decision-making clarity. A lot of times when people receive programs or resources, those most impacted feel like the program is being done to them, and doesn't really apply to them because they were brought in on the decision-making. And they don't know where they have the opportunity to say, hey, this isn't working for me, or no, I don't think my child should be a part of this because. And so it looks like, again, with Maine, I don't know what it is, but we just love to just let stuff fade out into the background and not really address it. And so that it's really important to talk about who's making the decisions and why are they the ones making those decisions in that partnership. And when I think about partnership, I'm not just thinking about like a community or an organization member and a school or a teacher. I'm thinking about internally too. Like when we think about partners and we think about access and equity, we're partnering with our families. You're partnering with the fourth and fifth grade educators in the school. You're partnering with the administrator at the front desk. And so I'm thinking that widely. And I know it's not in there, but I want to make note of that. All right. And then choosing one immediate adjustment you can make to increase access, something practical you can do right away, and share that. Can you share that with me? Because when I think about an adjustment, we've talked, I have adjustments in my head, but like I said, we just had a whole conversation about an area where I have a lot of learning to do. And so when you're thinking about adjusting for equity and access in your context, and we don't have to put it in the chat because I can't read the chat and it's only 4 of us. So I would love for you to let me know. But thank you. If you want to just put it in the chat and have Stephanie read it, I'm sure she'd be happy to. But what's an adjustment that you make within a situation, a circumstance where you're coming together within your school or community, and something that you maybe prior to a program or an event that you make it more accessible?
So we don't have like a end of the year learning where like families come in and see like what their students have done.
Because you don't have that?
I don't believe we have that. But the art teacher puts on a huge art show at the end of the year where she decorates. I mean, the halls are covered from floor to ceiling with artwork that the kids have done, and she strands things from the ceiling. And
nice.
I mean, it's honestly the most beautiful thing in the world. And a lot of kids do come to that. A lot of families come to that. So it'd be so cool if the general ed teachers could partner with the art teacher and our rooms be open during that time. That's so the
great idea.
Come in and see like student work. We had it at a school I worked at. It was Celebration of Learning. And they had like a little portfolio or they did a project and the families got to come in towards the end of the year. But if we could do that, I think where that's already something that all the families come in for, one thing that they do come in for, that maybe we could do that to get them in our rooms.
If I could throw up an emoji, I would. You should. Because I'm like, where are my emojis? That's a great idea. Because I was going to ask one of the what are some things that they come to that you can get for when you think about engagement? Do they show up for something? That's good.
At open house, I have 18 kids, and for open house, I had 7 families come. And then for parent teacher conference, out of my 18, I had parent teacher conferences with, I think, 8.
And is that typical? That's the percentage that you usually?
Last year, I was a special ed teacher, so I did parent teacher conferences, but they were low because some of those families I already had their annual meetings before the parent teacher conference. So I guess this is my first year here as a general ed teacher. So I don't think I have enough of my own like data to say.
Right.
As a special ed teacher, it's just very different.
It is very different. I agree. I would say if there was something, and I know we'll hopefully get to this, and I'm going to cut our 10-minute time to reflect to maybe 5 minutes because I want to keep the ideas going. This feels like a really good think tank of coming back to like what would that look like to partner around the outcome of increasing your engagement, because that seems to be really important to your school's success. If there was to be an improvement, like it don't matter if you improve, if the kids and the parents and the families don't show up to support, that's a really big deal. And so if I'm using any, I guess, examples, that's why, because I think for you all, engagement is a really big deal. Like if you got to show up, right, to be there. How was your attendance for the students that get into school?
So we actually have an attendance committee this year because chronic absenteeism has been a real issue at our school.
Okay.
And we are actually not trying to like, but we were
No,
like
this is good.
We were at a tier 3 school. So we actually, the leadership team that I'm a part of is we had to do with the state of Maine, we had to fill out one of those we had to come up with a plan. We had to have all of our forms of data to test our math and reading. And we actually
kind of comprehensive needs assessment.
Yes, we've exited that. So it's good.
Okay.
We've done a lot of work and we've like made a lot of progress and we have exited that now. We don't have to fill out another form and do all that. But absenteeism was one of our thing in our we have like a school goal where if like a student, if we're at like 90%, like classes get like little celebrations or something like that. So I know that's something like the schools worked on for attendance.
Oh, this is good.
But I do know that each class is very different. So I don't
But when we look at the success of a school, like I always say, if one of us sucks, we all suck. So I can be awesome at this grade level, but if our kindergartners are running rampant, then our school can improve, right? So I always take that up. Collective. I like the collective. We're all one in some way. How about you, Morgan? You have any thoughts on?
I find myself like I compare to like what I came from.
That's okay too.
To where I am now, and I find that the consequences of things, like the consequences of not coming to school, like I have one student that like is chronically absent, and I can tell you that like if it was my past school, like paperwork would have been filed, more stern talkings to her and the parent would be happening. But here it's just kind of like, oh, she's doing her best to try to get her to school, but
no warm
really,
demander over there.
You know, like it's just not. Yeah.
Okay. Well, can I say, or can I ask, what's one adjustment that, because again, when we talk about, and I'm glad I said that because I feel like Audrey, you shifted like, oh, internal collaboration and partnership is important too. Yes, it's extremely important, especially in your situation where you're rural and you can't reach out. You have to use each other and collaborate internally with the networks and resources that you have internally. So what's one adjustment there for equity and access? As we talked about your school specifically, we can use real world experience. What would you do? Or what could you do this year? Do y'all go to each other's houses? Is that a thing? Do y'all do home visits or?
So, we also lost our social worker and we have a new
one.
She left. Our very experienced social worker, who I think she was only here for 1 year, left because her husband is a pastor and got placed somewhere in Florida. So we have a new social worker, but she has just graduated from college, so she's very fresh. So she's learning. So she some things, I think it's like taking little steps at a time in that where she's learning a lot of like on the job of how to be a school social worker. So I think it's not biting off more than we can chew. As far as our principal, we have just a principal, no vice principal, and she's servicing 178 students. Behavior, she's the person contacting home. She's the person with curriculum. Like she wears a lot of hats.
Yeah.
So I
Which is
just think,
typical in a rural community.
yes. And
What it is.
yeah. And so some of these things I don't necessarily have answers for, but I do
Mhm.
have why I think some things are more
The way
difficult
they
for
are.
us. Yeah. Circumstantially
Yeah.
right now.
Oh, so I'm thinking like, what does the Department of Education have as far as resources for bringing in social workers or
Mm.
that kind to cover some of that? Be
So
interesting.
there used to be a program. I am going for my master's for ed leadership from Maine with, and it's the cohort with rural education concentration. I started it before COVID, and I'm only have 3 classes left. But as a mom, it's just hard to take classes.
Yeah,
um, but they had an organization called Tree.
I do know that organization.
You do? Okay.
Hmm.
Is that going anymore? Because I
I'm
tried
like, I'm
looking
not.
it up like a month ago to see, because I was talking to our principal about um PD that we could do for our whole school, and
Hmm.
Tree came to mind, but everything I found was like a couple years ago was when things stopped being published on it. So I don't know if that's still a thing.
Well, guess what, Audra? If it's not, I plan on, because like I said, this is a real unique experience in that I've got you two here. This feels very intimate. It's something that I can do. Like I can follow up with your school to send those resources or to give you those resources that you may need. So I'm taking notes over here while I'm having this presentation. Like, all right, find out about Tree. Is there somewhere in the Waldoboro area that's doing something similar? Do we have something similar? We have our Office of School and Student Supports, and that's who you would connect with.
Okay.
Bear Shea, for overall as the director in that department, in that office. Julie how do you say Julie's last name? I will send that. Julie
Okay.
is our director for the Office of Students and School Supports.
Mhm.
And I think again, if you like, I don't know if they have anything, they don't think we need, then you won't find anything. But now I'm like, my spidey senses are up. I'm writing down who to connect you all to. And that too is partnership. It's
Yeah.
not all about just like what's the next grant you can get. It's like, who do you know who already has the resources that
Right.
you need that we can just skip over the middle, that process and get right to it. We can shrink the network,
Mhm.
is what for me has been successful for working with rural communities. It's like, how can we shrink the network so that we can send people out as opposed to bring you all over? But yeah, okay. I have a moment. We've covered a lot. Um, I want to give you an opportunity to think and reflect. And I'm not going to do it for 10 minutes. I'd like to do it maybe for 5, just to take a moment to journal some of the things that's resonated or stood out for you, what you're thinking about. Um, I want to be able to narrow down the focus, so that you'd be able, like I said, to leave with something actionable. I I have like several things for both of you that you can definitely do on Tuesday that I can follow up with, but this is not for me, as much as it is for you to do what you feel is feasible in the space that you have. And then we'll come back and I want to talk to you about that, see what you wrote. I have a prompt for you. But again, since we have the opportunity to be intimate about this a little bit, I want to come back and think about like one thing that you want to bring away, that you can do and how we can help you, at the department as well, or what are some of the partnerships that you're thinking about, who needs to be involved. All right, so 11:05, you can turn your camera off, you can stay here, I'll be here, and so will this little, wait, does it do it again? No, let's go back. Time to reflect, nice waves. I thought it was nice to add, but take a moment and I'll call you back shortly. We back? Thank you so much, Stephanie. You're like the best. So you don't have to use this statement, but it just covers all of the pieces as you were thinking about all that we've covered so far. We've got a little bit more time. I want to clarify the challenge you're designing for. Like I said, because I've had an opportunity to learn so much about your school and your community in such an intimate way, I have several things that I can use if I was a teacher at your school right now. But I want you to take the opportunity to tell me a little bit about what you want to improve, why, who you're doing it for, and what are some of the things that you're thinking about if you were doing this? Some of the constraints you might want to honor. And of course, rural reach has been the focus of this conversation, but there may be other things that we haven't mentioned that you would consider in a challenge that you're trying to design for at your school in Waldeboro. Or just share what you thought about and reflected on during your 5-minute reflection break.
Okay, let me put mine into that
Sure.
statement. I would say that I want to improve a solid community partnership by the end of the school year, because I want my families more invested in what's going on in our classroom, so that they trust and reach out to me more about their child. Maybe where I'm not from this community and I don't live here, maybe they just don't know me, or I'm not sure. And I was on maternity leave for 3 months at the beginning of the year. So I think that there's some space there that has made the constraints of them being open to maybe coming into my classroom or reaching out. So that would be what I think is a potential was a constraint, and that we only have a couple more months of school. So time to solidify that, I think, would be difficult. Okay. But still, I think it could be doable.
Yeah, I'm loving this idea of collaborating with the art teacher. Please please invite me if and when that happens. Okay, thank you. How about you, Morgan?
So I wrote down internal connections since it's my first year here. So I do kind of keep to myself, except Audra and
I love it.
supervising teacher, but to kind of branch out, especially since I will have to go up to the middle school, which is just upstairs, but have to go up there next year. And we know that the world's changed a little bit from elementary to middle school. Maybe being able to partner with another grade if possible. Possibly, I mean, my kids don't love to read, but maybe they would like to if they had a younger student that they were reading to. And then I also had finding ways to make more connection between my students' interests and core curriculum, because getting them interested in the things that we do need to learn is hard. But if I could find specific interests that they have and make that connection, then that would probably help that.
That's yummy. I love that. Thank you. Stephanie, I don't want to leave you hanging. Did you try this challenge? What were your reflections and thoughts while we were?
So I have to be honest, I didn't try this challenge because I was thinking about these two. And I went down a rabbit hole about rural education. So in the chat, I had posted a link to that Maine program, which I hadn't heard of. But I was just trying to think of, like, I know I've seen initiatives across the state for rural teachers, but I couldn't think of any of them. So I was just trying to find some. So I was going down that rabbit hole, and just trying to think of ways for you guys. I lost my thought. Oh, Audra, something you said was, have you tried newsletters at all to your parents to try and get them like engaged and hooked in?
Yes. I send newsletters home. I also have a class dojo page that I post on daily and get 3 views. And
It's tough.
yeah, so I don't know, but I definitely need to do something different. I do send newsletters home. I think they read them, but I don't get any type of feedback. And on Dojo, like I said, I get anywhere from like 3 to 7 of my families seeing what I put on there. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's typical. But I love the idea of like, I think that's something that's worked for Ellsworth too, is the engagement nights, like especially when kids have something to show off. I think that
yeah,
is a huge selling point. So like, if they have, and unfortunately, sometimes it has to be more than just the academics, right? So I love the idea of combining, okay, if we're going to show off our art, why don't we go into the classroom and see what else we've been doing? You know
yeah,
what I mean? And then maybe like on a music night, if you guys have choir or band or something, you can pull in something else with that. Or if you guys have any, we've been starting to build STEM family nights. I don't know if you guys do, are you part of the MLTI program with your school and get like MLTI devices or anything like that?
I don't believe so.
Let's go, Stephanie.
I believe we just have Chromebooks.
Okay.
And I think it's just, I don't know if that's part of the MLTI. I thought that was Apple products or
It could be, there's two different grants with MLTI, and one is one kind of has given most of the schools in Maine, like the Chromebooks and that kind of
yeah,
thing, kind of our devices. But then there was another one that didn't run this past year because the tariffs have kind of thrown a whole wrench in things, and I'm not sure when it's going to resume, but it's allowed a lot of schools to get free technology. So like little bee bots or indie robots or just things that especially schools who struggle with budgets like ours do,
yeah,
just free things like that. But anyway, my point was not necessarily selling MLTI, but just, if there's anything you guys do that is student driven that you could potentially show off to kids, like, if they did a cool social studies unit where they made these really cool maps or just anything at all that you can highlight. And I've also found food is a huge motivator. When we had our first
Yes,
STEM
feed
night,
me.
they were excited about the STEM stuff, but I think they were really excited about the food. So it's kind of like whatever works to get them in. And then
yeah,
the more they come in, the better chance we have of bringing them back. You know what I
mm,
mean? So I would
yeah.
I would say start with that, I guess, if that
I
makes sense.
love it.
I will say
Thank
that
you.
over here, I think they just started last year, but didn't they just get a PTO over here?
Yes. Yeah. Last year was our first year with PTO
Yeah.
in a
So
long time.
Y'all have a PTO. This
the
is a small
yeah, I think it's of
school.
like,
It
Okay.
is a nice group of 3 ladies.
yeah, I was gonna say
You're
it's
doing
like
a
two
good
or three
job.
people.
Listen, that's like a quarter of your population, or
Yeah.
dependent. Like when we look at numbers, like you got
Yes.
3 people to come out. That's a big deal. That's a big deal.
I
Yeah,
So
and
will
it's
say
a
they
really
are
awesome
trying.
mom heading it. So she's
Yeah.
doing a lot. Like she like they're doing a family game night next week.
yeah,
Um, where they're like ordering pizza, putting games out for the families to come play. They help with like our end of the school year fun day. Um, PTO ended up buying all the teachers like a coffee cart in the teachers room, and they fill it every once in a while when they have extra funds. Like it's really nice. They've done a lot of stuff. So even
oh,
if we could try to do something on the same night that PTO does something, that
I was
might
gonna
that
say
might be a good idea.
keep these ideas coming. I'll
Yeah.
go back. I won't go back to that slide, but this is where I knew we would get here eventually, and so I'm glad I'm right on schedule. So when you say that, I've heard you name so many different partners, so many
Yeah.
different pieces to the puzzle of making just that one small thing work. Even just getting coffee in the lounge is it's a move for people, but it
Mhm.
takes like a few people coming together. But knowing who those people are and who you need is very important. And this is where the final piece. We've got a few more minutes. I think this is over at 11:30 or 12. All right. Well, bear with me. I'll speed through again. I'll be here. This won't end. I'll get to that at the end too, how we'll stay connected. But I want you to understand who you are on the map. Who are you in the Maine education ecosystem? Knowing yourself in the ecosystem helps you lead with clarity, helps you start things with clarity, and it also helps you identify who you need to partner with to make the innovation possible. Each role comes with strengths and each role comes with limits. We can name what we naturally bring, and we can also name what's missing around us, and that's where the partnerships stop being generic and start becoming something that's strategic. As you reflect, consider what you represent and who you represent and what strengths you consistently contribute and some of the strengths that need to be present for the innovation moves that we just talked about to be implemented. And when I think about the implementation, it sounds like such a big word. And when we think about ecosystem, such a big word. But your ecosystem right now, we're thinking about Waldoboro. We've been able to narrow the scope with this whole presentation and the discussion that we've had. But it's really important to know that even though it's small, there's big personalities, big thoughts and ideas coming from big people, and some folks that just want to just do the one thing or just want to be a part or just want to be there to as motivational support, and all of those pieces are important. And so I forgot to name them for you: connector, builder, talk about listeners, advocates, and challengers. Like I said, knowing yourself in the ecosystem helps you lead. We'll start with the connectors. Each role comes with those strengths and challenges. Connector, they naturally link people and ideas. You see potential in relationships. Like me, I'm a connector. My heart starts gleaming and buzzing when I find that I'm talking to someone that would be great for something else and who I need this person to meet. I don't know what they'll do together, but they're going to do great things. They match the right people and the right opportunities, often across teams, communities, and systems. And without that connector, many partnerships never even start. Then we have our builders. I love builders. I'm one of those as well. Sorry, I'm getting my stuff connected. They take ideas and insights and they make them real. We like structure, clarity. I like to know who's doing what and how. I like to know how we're following through. You need those people those are the ones that when like I said, in Maine, we like to let things die. That builder, they've got structure, they got form, and they're like, okay, in 2 months, we got to do milestones. Like, what happened? Where is our milestone moment? You need those folks. They keep the momentum going and is sustained as the initial spark starts to fade on a really good idea. Okay. All right. And these 3 roles add accountability and depth to the partnership. The listeners help root the work in what's true, what people actually are experiencing. We love those folks. We also they don't design from just assumptions. They've heard. They're speaking up in the room, or they're the ones that are based on I'm having a feeling, or they're empathetic about the people in the room as well because they've been listening and they're thoughtful. And then the advocates help lift what needs attention and action, especially when access and opportunities feel uneven. Challengers help stretch the system when growth is needed by naming attention, by testing assumptions, and calling us forward to better. So all of these, they have their strengths and challenges. And I'm sure as I'm reading through and you're reading through, you can think about those people where they can be like, oh, here we go again, always trying to bring up something that ain't nobody talk. But those are the people that keep the I call the empty seat in mind, the person that may not be there and represented in the room. They're always going to talk about that person that isn't being asked to the table. And the challenger, challengers help us stretch. Like I said, they name those things. Whereas they couple with the advocate, they're like, hey, So where's so-and-so? I usually am the person. So for PTO, it was so great. I wanted to be a part of PTO, was always a part of the PTO as a parent. My mom was a part of PTO. I grew up in the inner city. We were really poor. I'm one of those, all the things. I check off all the boxes. But I learned that, to be able to be in the room is really important. And so when I got to, not gonna name it, every county's different, but I was on this PTO group, and they were meeting at, I think, 3:15. My kid doesn't get off the bus until 4. How am I going to get to this PTO meeting? It seems like I don't care, but it's like I can't get there because the time is crazy. All year, no one said anything. I get to this new place. So they've been doing this. This is the way they do it. And I was able to get that time changed, or to have a different, I think they started a meeting at 6 and 6:30, and also had meetings. They started shifting it and shaking it up, only because I'm going to advocate for the people who are not in the room. And I'm going to challenge y'all to think about, like, yes, parent teachers, like conferences and associate, like that's all great. But if they can't be there and they can't access it, and you don't know how because you didn't ask them, it's going to be difficult to make the change and do the thing you want to do. So the reflection matters because there's pressure levels, and pressure reveals patterns, right? When things feel urgent or tense, we all tend to default to something familiar. Courage. These folks are courageous, and that courage gives us the ability to choose what the moment requires, especially when the moment calls for access. It's hard here, especially in rural communities too, because there you already have the constraints of time, space. It's usually your roads are bad because there's not a lot that people don't think about those things, or I can't get there. My house is all the way over there, and I would love to get there at that time, but I'm not able to because something like the roads are bad, or I won't be able to be there consistently. So now I look like I'm not consistent, or I'm flaky. So I'm just not going to show because they haven't thought about that. And so I'm not going to think about it for them. The folks in this part in the ecosystem, we all need to be one of these at some time. And so thinking about who you are naturally, and maybe what you need for the situations, circumstances, those innovations that are coming up, is also something you want to think about. So the scenario showed us something important, and our conversation showed us something important as I wrap us up. Innovation doesn't move forward because the idea is strong or it's really good. Innovation moves forward when the ecosystem is aligned, when the right strengths are connected, and when the partnership is structured to hold the work. And so that looks different for different people, but they're in all situations, whether we're talking about, rural Waldoboro, or we're talking about somewhere like Lewiston or Portland. It's the same. When you think about that idea, we think about those same things, like being clear about our roles, being clear about what we're going to do and the outcome, and be clear who's in the room and who we need in the room. That's where the strategy comes in. So innovation moves at the speed of the ecosystem. So I'm going to give you an opportunity real quick to talk about who you are, which ecosystem role best describes you today, and which role is most needed in the innovation that you talked about or that you summarized to be successful. Morgan's off. Yeah, there you go.
I would say that I'm more of a listener advocate, just with where I am in life right now.
I hear that.
But I do think that over time, I'll be able to be more of a builder, especially. Yeah.
Yeah. And when you're thinking about the challenge that you have, do you think? I know you said you're a listener, you're moving toward maybe being a builder. Are there any of those that maybe you need to make this successful? And don't think about Audra, because you're already her. She's already in your ecosystem. Yep. And I'm going to hear from Audra what she thinks is she's strong. But is there something that you think, oh, if I had a connector or a challenger, like this would be helpful to success?
Probably more of a connector, just because I would say I'm very independent and I don't know. I just do
Yeah.
things on my own and figure them out, and I don't usually reach out to people as much as I probably could.
Mm,
But I also get by just fine too. Like I'm not like struggling or overly stressed, or you know what I mean?
right. I
So
do.
I don't reach out until I feel like I really need to.
I get that.
Yeah.
And you can't do the bigger things on your own. So good that you're thinking about needing that connector. How about
Yeah.
you, Audra?
I think I'm an advocate and a connector, but I also dabble in being a challenger at times. Um,
Like it.
but I think like in my role as a teacher, I'm definitely an advocate and a connector.
And when you're thinking about some of the innovative ideas that came up today, what do you think the role is that's most needed for it to be successful?
Um, I think what I need is a local connector. I just think if I could team up with somebody who lives in Washburn and knows the people of Washburn a little bit better, which I'm kind of thinking would be the PTO mom because I'm already friends with her outside of Washburn. Um,
Mm,
that she might be someone who could help me. Just because I don't know the family dynamics, I don't know the community dynamics of this town. I don't know
yeah.
whose grandfather's who and who's related, like, which is very important up in when you're up here in like the rural
Maine in
area. And
general.
yeah, and I just don't feel like I know those things where like I'll throw something out like, oh, well, this person, my student earned this reward as part of his behavior system. Could he do it with that person? And they're like, oh,
Mm,
well, that person's bringing this person and this person is his cousins and they don't get along. And I'm like, oh, I don't know that. So there's a lot of things
yeah,
like that I just don't know. So I feel like if I had somebody who knows the community a bit more to kind of help me, that would be it.
great insight. Thank you.
Ayesha, just we have 1 minute left. Just to throw it
Yep,
out
I
there.
see that. And we talked about this. I'm gonna wrap up, and it says unmute. Type it in the chat. But just any final thoughts from you all, and then I'll give you some QR codes to take from me.
You want us to put them in the chat?
You don't have to.
Oh,
That would be yeah. You give them on. I'm gonna remember. It's
oh, I thought this definitely was helpful in the realm of not being from the community, but like thinking of how I'm coming from a community that I was very integrated with and coached, and my kid goes there, and like I was in that community. And what I thought was really nice coming here is, oh, I just go and do my job and leave. Like I don't have any of the, you know, emotional ties that I had
right.
in my old school that caused a lot of like stress and stuff. But now I'm seeing that like I really should probably make some more ties in the position I'm at now where it's a new community. Like I should integrate myself a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. How about you, Morgan?
Um, I I would agree with her. My fear with doing that, just from past experience, is that when you get too integrated, then you're always expected to do more. Like it's
Mm,
never enough. And you don't necessarily like once you just become one that does stuff, you don't get recognition or appreciation
right.
for anything, and I don't want to sacrifice like my family, especially at this point where we are with, my little guy's 3 and I'm expecting another one. So at this point in life, I don't want to sacrifice my family to not be appreciated for things.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why independence is not a good look. It stretches you, and then you get a family like, I can't do this, I can't do that. But if you have more than one person or 2 or 3 people coming together on an innovation or something that is really important to you, then the world is your oyster, literally. The connections and your networks can go far beyond what you can do on your own. And so we'll end with this. I want to thank you. I just, you have access to this. And so I don't want to belabor it too much, but I hope that once you finish, you thought about it. I will come up there, but sign into Engine. You'll find the link on the sheet. That's somewhere where we use. I don't know if you're familiar with our Engine system, but it is our professional learning management system where you can come follow up, ask questions. I'll likely, if you follow up, I'll reach out and say, hey, how are y'all doing? Hey, when is that presentation where the art thing is? Can I come along? You can type right there. And I'm hoping that there are more opportunities throughout for you to explore virtually. It's not just one. This is not just one place for one person. I think we're doing so many different professional learning opportunities through Engine. And so make sure that you sign up there so you can get to updates. It's 11:32. This engagement, cultivating innovative teaching and learning, is a part of a series. You can reach out to me. You can follow that QR code to see what else is happening. And I hope you do. Final QR code before you leave. Please let us know how this experience was for you. The name of this was Partnering for Innovation in Schools. Today is the 16th. Ayesha Hall, your presenter, and it's under the category of strategic partnerships. It's a short one. You can also reach out to me and say, hey, Ayesha, you were awesome. Oh, hey, that really sucked, and I really think you need to do better next time. I take it all. I'm hard to offend. And if there's anything that I can do for you as a department member, a strategic partner, I've written down, like I said, I got a lot of notes. And so you all are going to be hearing from me. If not you, your superintendent will get a visit so I can tell him about the wonderful experience I had hearing about his school and the schools in that SAU. So small, I don't know how to call it. But I thank you both. And we'll stop the recording, but if there's anything else you need, I'm here. This is Ayesha. Hopefully you'll have a great lunch.